My name is Dave Tran, and this is LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. We have chiropractor Dr. Andy Roberts in Commerce Township, Michigan, but originally from New York. Dr. Andy graduated from Palmer College of Chiropractic in 1996. He is the co-founder of the Art of the Specific, which is a comprehensive training program in upper cervical specific chiropractic. Dr. Andy, welcome to LuxTV.
Dave, it's an absolute honor to be here with you. I'm so glad and really impressed with what you put together here with this program and speaking to the various different chiropractors, spreading chiropractic to both students and chiropractors alike across the country and across the world. Really kudos to you.
Oh yeah, it's more fun than anything else. So let's get straight to it. So how were you called to chiropractic?
That's a really interesting story because I'm not a legacy. No one in my family was a chiropractor. I didn't have one of those miracle cases where I was really sick, went to a chiropractor, and had my life saved. I was an average kid growing up in New York City. I had a good friend that I grew up with, my closest friend who actually did go to chiropractic school. He went to NYCC, started there. They actually had some problems there, and he transferred out to Palmer, finished at Palmer, Davenport, came home, and he would, now understand I choose my words purposely and carefully, so you'll see as I go along, so I don't want people to get up on their high horses when I say this. He would crack me. He would come over to the house, or I would go over there. I'd lay down. He'd crack my neck this way, crack my neck that way. He'd crack my lower back, crack my mid back. And honestly, I had no chorus of angels in the background. No, wow, that felt really great. It was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Never had really any experience. So for me, chiropractic was just some manipulative thing that my buddy did, and people paid him money to go see. So it was, for me, nothing really spectacular. So I went on my life. I went into a company where I did engineering and sales engineering, and that happened to cross that time where I was traveling to Georgia to help some engineers from our company talk to the engineers from their company to put a product together. And it was the same exact weekend that my buddy was going to be in Atlanta for Dynamic Essentials, a DE seminar. And we're talking about back in 1995. Now, understand, I'm established already. I've been working at that for years, doing well, making great money, having fun, enjoying what I was doing. But we ended up meeting for lunch. He said, dude, just come over to the hotel. I think it was the Galleria. We'll grab lunch, hang out, and then, you can get on your way, and I'll get back to the seminar. That's a fantastic. So I meet him in the lobby. Huge. This is back when DE was, bar none, tons of people, lots of excitement. I'd say probably around 2,000 chiropractors and staff and whatnot there. I meet him there. Worst nightmare, he says, oh, Andy, there's one more speaker I want to hear. Why don't you come in with me? I'm like, dude, there's no way. There's no way I'm going in. I'm going to sit through this crap. Now I'll wait out here for you. He said, no, come on. You're here. When are we together? Blah, 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 blah. Come on in. Long story short, 15 minutes. I mean, you have to understand, childhood friends. 15 minutes, we're arguing back and forth. Go in, not go in. He said, come on in. We'll sit in the middle, and we'll just make fun of the people around us. So he had me sold. We went in there, sat right in the middle of this sea of people, and as soon as the speaker began, I have to say, within about 60 to 90 seconds, I experienced like tunnel vision, as if I was the only one in the audience, and the speaker was speaking directly to me. I honestly, Dave, can't even tell you the content of his entire talk. But I knew right there and then there's nothing else that I could possibly do with the rest of my life than be a chiropractor. And 3 months to the day, finishing out some other prereqs, I was at Palmer College.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is an amazing story.
That was my epiphany. incredible story. And the reason why I went to Palmer was that the speaker spoke about the Palmers, spoke about these giants, and they all went to Palmer College of Chiropractic. So I said, that's where I got to go. I got to go to the source. I didn't know anything about green books. I didn't know anything about, whatever the details and the names of the people, but I knew that that was the source. That's where I needed to go to get my education.
That's great. And then, so how did the art of the specific come about?
Wow. So that's a really awesome story too, because that starts way back with that 3-month event between hearing the speaker and being at Palmer. So I go to Palmer, had the most amazing orientation. The weekend before, I think it was the Friday before Monday classes, we had an orientation. Big class. We had 256 people in our starting class. So it was in the gym. And we're going to hear a couple of people from the school speak about chiropractic and the journey. Again, I didn't know anybody. The first person that got up there to speak was Dr. Maxine McMullen. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Maxine McMullen. She is an icon in baby, infant, and child chiropractic. She was an instructor there at Palmer. Past history, she was a nurse. She had an epiphany, and she's probably one of the greatest, staunchest supporters of chiropractic and its philosophy. She spoke, and of course she's a Kiwi, so she's got this great accent that totally sucked you in. Plus she was speaking chiropractic. And the next guy that gets up was Galen Price. Have you heard that name?
No, not yet.
Dave. So Galen Price is basically a couple of things. First of all, he was BJ's man for chiropractic philosophy. He was the teacher of chiropractic philosophy at the Palmer School of Chiropractic. Volume 14, the chiropractic textbook, in the reprint, 1948, if you look at the end, there's actually a little section written by Dr. Galen Price in that. And he also has the dubious honor of being the first non-Palmer president of Palmer College of Chiropractic. So big deal. And he gave this unbelievably powerful chiropractic philosophy talk that I knew I was in the right place. I said, wow, this is amazing. And at the time, I wasn't a young guy because I was out, working and stuff like that. But I was able to get, walking in the halls there, a sense of what was there, a sense of the power of the giants past that walked those halls, that talked in those halls, that checked each other in those halls. So we get to first class philosophy, first class Monday. Supposedly a great chiropractic philosopher, brilliant memory, like photographic. He starts putting up a slideshow, and it really started out awesome. Pictures of the Palmers, pictures of the school, pictures of adjusting tables. Then he puts up a picture of the green books. Now, again, I was not this green book aficionado, but I know that that was the lexicon, that was the collection of chiropractic philosophy and chiropractic art and chiropractic science that BJ and his people put out. So I knew that it had some major significance in the philosophy. So he puts up the slide and he begins to say, well, these books have, are good for history but have no relevancy today. I was like, what? I mean, what? After just hearing Maxine McMullen and Galen Price not 2 days before, now having you tell me this, and you're the one that's going to be teaching me daily chiropractic philosophy, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision? I was a little bit put off. Right away, that first week, we had a group of 5 of us that would get together and study every day. 5 really good people that 4 of them I still keep in touch with today. So what I did was I went to the Palmer Library, and well, back then was videotape, so VHS. So I started grabbing names of who I knew. Now that was really limited. Like Sigafus was the chiropractor that I heard at that Dynamic Essentials at time 3 months before. So I grabbed the tape of his. Now on the VHS tapes, they were not just one speaker. There were 2, 3 speakers. So on his tape was Fred Barge and Ian Grossum. And I just started grabbing. So there would be Dick Santos and Galen Price again. One had Michael Kale on it. So what we would do is we would study, and then we would take a break and watch one of these half-hour to 1-hour videos of these chiropractors presenting on whatever it was, be it philosophy mostly or art, chiropractic art, and then we would go on studying. That first week, I got to hear Michael Kale present while he was at Palmer. It was an hour presentation, I believe, and it was charismatic. Similar effect to that talk I had 3 months earlier that got me into chiropractic. This talk got me into upper cervical. And I exhausted every avenue I can to get my hands on anything upper cervical because it resonated. It made sense right away within that 1-hour talk of his. He said to go out and buy volume 18, the subluxation specific, adjustment specific. I did. He said, read it, 3 times at least, because that's what B.J. Palmer said. That's what he said. So I did. I sought out anybody there at the school that did upper cervical work. Long story short, I ended up taking some classes with Dr. Kale, took some classes with Dr. Tuscarino out in California. But my biggest formative time in chiropractic period and in upper cervical work was my internship with Dr. Bud Crowder. And Dr. Crowder, my mentor, God rest his soul, there's not a day that doesn't go by that I'm not reminded of him, that a message that he's given me or a teaching or a lesson is not with me when I either am with patients, working on my program, or talking to students. So I right away from that first week, really, at school, I started my trajectory towards upper cervical understanding and the art of it. And obviously the background, the foundation of the philosophy, but the background then of the science that fit in the why, the rationale of why upper cervical. And so while my time was spent there with our regular classes at Palmer, we had really a nice spread of electives that I was able to take. So, I was blessed to take Blair technique with Weldon Munsey. I was able to take AO with Roy Sweat. I availed myself of every upper cervical technique that was available. And the ones that weren't available there, I traveled to. So I traveled to Spartanburg for the Kale. I traveled to California for Tuscarino. And then any break I had, I would go visit an upper cervical chiropractor across the country. If it was only for 5 minutes to pick their brain or just quietly sit and watch them check someone or adjust someone. I'm so fortunate and blessed to have a lot of people like this, like John Bryan's quiet giants that just did day in, day out. Roy Puckett and James Young, Leonard Rutherford, all of these great masters of upper cervical work. Marianne Pruitt from your home state, who was a master beyond masters of chiropractic. I had the opportunity to spend time with these people and pick their brains. And what happened was, what resonated most for me was the solid headpiece work, the knee posture and side posture solid headpiece work. And so I think my journey of learning all the others gave me a better understanding of the upper cervical area. And please believe me, while I was at school too, I also studied the full spine techniques. In fact, I worked in the full spine classes as a teaching aid because I really wanted to understand what that perspective was, how the unit moves as a whole, what's the global effects and movements and the biomechanics of the spine. All of that allowed me a greater understanding of the application of the upper cervical work in the knee posture, the modern HIO, if you will. And then I worked for many years in Costa Rica with close friend now for over 20 years, Sean Dill. And, we saw a lot of people, we worked hard, but even at the end of the day when we were exhausted, we would sit there and talk chiropractic. and it was, you know, it was philosophy, it was science, and it was art, business, and all of those factors together. And some of the factors in the art were questions that we had, like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we doing A? Why do we do these line drawings? What would happen if there was a slight tube shift when the x-ray was taken? What happens if the patient, instead of completely plumb, was slightly churned? What would that look like on the spinograph? What would happen if we didn't pre-acclimate the patient before we checked them? So we ran through all the what-if questions. And by doing so, we were able to then find chinks in the armor, so to speak. You know, where's the weak link in the chain? And as we began to find those, we said, well, that's not acceptable. I mean, that's just not acceptable. Which reminds me of a quote that my mentor absolutely loved and stuck in my head. To err is human, but as a chiropractor, you don't have that luxury. So we wanted to, you know, perfect and improve and enhance each detail of any of the question marks that we had. And that's really how the art of the specific developed. Us on that journey of why. It's the same thing in our classes when we're teaching students and docs now. It's right from the get-go, I open up the class with, this is a class to ask questions in. Because I can remember sitting in class, technique classes, and getting sledgehammered over my head for even opening up my mouth, insultingly. You know, there wasn't that give and take. I'm the authority. I say that this is what it is. You know, the moon is blue, and that's what it is. I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't look blue. It kind of looks gray. No. Anyway, you have to kind of go through the questioning if you're going to have understanding. I don't want a ton of mini-me's. I don't want a ton of yes people. I want people to fully engage and fully integrate it. And the only way they can do that is if they get their whys answered. So those whys led us to the art of the specific. And this is a work in progress. This is not like, this is it. This is the end all. This is a work in progress. And we make changes and improvements with each passing year that we've been working on it.
Yeah, because I know like it's grown into several modules where you're covering X-rays and neurology and then all across the United States as well too. So yeah, that's awesome. That's growing so much.
Yeah, and it's really cool. What's really exciting is it's based on a model that never came from chiropractic. It's based on the mechanoreceptive disafferentation model, which came from really the other side. And honestly, for me, at the beginning was a really significant problem because the mechanoreceptor disafferentation model is on the afferent side of what you would term, the simple cycle or the normal complete cycle. And that, that kind of is a big no-no in chiropractic philosophy. We always hear, the subluxation, the vertebral subluxation occurs on the efferent side, always occurs on the efferent side. So I fought this for the longest time. I'm like, no, and John and I would have discussions, we would have arguments, and dude, this can't be right. This can't be right because, and then I started doing some research, go right back to my philosophy Bible, which is Stevenson's volume 14, the chiropractic textbook, and there it was, plain as day, and it's in there. And it goes back to the special sense cycle, and the special sense cycle is connected with that proprioception, and proprioception is what we're talking about in the mechanoreceptive disafferentation model. And now I have a philosophical underpinning. Now I have my upper cervical rationale. Now I have a complete package, because now that model integrates the philosophy, the rationale, the biomechanics, the spinography, the neurology, the thermography, and ultimately the adjusting. So it's pretty cool and really blessed to have made that journey into where we're getting, and still the innovations that we make today with it.
That's great. So what is your greatest hope for chiropractic?
that's probably not an easy question to answer. My greatest hope for chiropractic is realization, that it's fully realized, that it is understood by the population, what it really stands for. The reason why I say it's a really tough question, because the definition of chiropractic has been maligned, has been changed, has been amended, has been perverted so many times over. So, you know, you can have 100 chiropractors following this video, and they could all be shaking their head yes when they hear me talking about the chiropractic, but in their head, their perception of what chiropractic is completely different. It was interesting because I was just listening to a talk the other day about the scope of practice in each state. Now, the scope of practice in each state varies. And the scope of practice is that state's definition of chiropractic. But I think what's super important that we need to understand as students and as chiropractors, that the definition of chiropractic and the scope of practice definition of the state are not the same. And just because this state says and allows all of this doesn't mean that this changes. This definition changes. So where do we set our parameters? What's our chiropractic mentality? Dave, what's your chiropractic mentality? When you look at something, even outside of chiropractic, are you looking at it with a chiropractic mentality, or are you looking at it with a different type of mentality? I guess my dream for chiropractic would be that we all have an understanding of what the chiropractic mentality truly is. And if we did, then I think each person would understand the importance of why every single man, woman, and child needs to get checked for vertebral subluxation.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move on to my favorite segment on LuxTV. It's called the Mental Impulse Round, or like a lightning speed questions. So are you ready, Andy?
I'm strapped in. I got my helmet on and my 5-point racing harness.
Okay. Super fun and super easy. So here we go. Here's the first one. What is your favorite sports team?
Yankees.
Yankees. Have you
I'm
met
a New
one of...
Yorker, Dave.
What's that?
I'm in New York. Well, I'm a transplanted New Yorker. I probably should say I don't know. Forget it. The Yankees.
Yeah. Have you met one of your heroes?
I have.
And what was their name?
Elliot Roberts, my dad.
Awesome. What are your top 3 books of all time?
Top 3 books of all time. Well, the Bible. Volume 18 and Volume 14, and thanks to you, add number 4, Getting Things Done.
Perfect. What's one thing that you're deeply proud of but would never put on your resume?
Wow, that's a tough one.
I know you have a lot of pictures of your son on.
Yeah, you know, if I'm proud of something, I like to tell the world about it. My family, for sure. My kids, I mean, unbelievable kids, sweet kids, loving kids. You know, that for me is one of the greatest accolades that I can receive, is that my kids are good kids. So if I am able to, on one hand, in my family life, help to nurture and give strength to my kids, but then also help and nurture my students in chiropractic to give them a strong foundation, so that equal parts, so they can contribute to society, my kids, and to their family, and be loving, and my students in chiropractic can contribute to their communities and to the world on the whole by giving them the gift of chiropractic, then yeah, I probably wouldn't put that on my resume, but I'd be pretty proud.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Andy, for sharing with us today. If you want some more information or want to connect with Dr. Andy directly, check out the links below. Every week I will be uploading a new interview with another giant in the chiropractic profession. If you like this video, please share it with your classmates or give this video a thumbs up. And subscribe to this YouTube channel. My name is Dave Tran, and this was LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dave. I really appreciate you.